Ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking with a GOAT. Ken Dow giving you motivation for growth. 2 toes down, he keep it realer than most. He do it for the culture, that's always the goal. This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow. This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow.
So graduated, and my boy, actually, my high school boy, Brandon Dominic, he actually started writing raps. He started rapping. And I was always a good writer in class and school. He was like, man, why don't you help me write like the choruses or the hooks? So I'm like, all right, I could do that. And it was like God, that was his way of bringing me back into it, because once I got a taste of it, I fell all the way in. So I was writing for him. And then, of course, what I wrote, I had to sing.
No, you was writing raps, or was you writing songs?
Nope.
Oh,
choruses.
you said you was doing hooks.
Yeah,
so you're doing the chorus.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So that's what I was gonna say.
Right.
You can't just hand somebody a chorus and be like, here.
Right.
Like, you gotta be like, all right, how it goes.
All right, exactly.
Like, so at that point, I had to sing it. You know, he like, damn, man, you actually decent, man. Like you writing stuff for me, you might as well start, like, know where it's gonna go. And sure as shooting, you know, I kept writing for him, but I started writing my own, and it's like these songs would come in my head and these lyrics, and I would write them. And I didn't have music. I wasn't skilled enough to play the piano and start from scratch. So we just wrote to songs that were like other artists' songs in the industry, but they had instrumentals. You know, back then they would have CDs with all instrumentals on them. And you just write to them. And that's how I started.
Really?
And before you know it, I started writing choruses for some other artists. And then they was like, yo, I got a show on such and such and such. Why don't you perform with me? I'm like, heart drop. Oh, man. So,
all right. So tell me your very first one.
Man, it was on the West Side. It was this place called The Fantasy or something.
Okay.
And scared to death, man.
This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow.
What's up? What's up? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Ken Dow. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and we do it every Sunday right here on this channel. But when I'm not shooting this podcast, I am the owner of Strategic Resources, where we specialize in political campaign, governmental relations, and public relations work. Been doing it in this state for over 25 years and met some interesting people along the way, and I want to make your next move a strategic move. So if that's something you think you're interested in, I need you to hit the subscribe button. I need you to hit the notification bell as well, so you would know the next time our program is coming on. But today, we're going to talk about the culture. I got a special guest in the house. His name is DAVY. He's an actor, musician, sports guy. He does a whole bunch of stuff, but he's right here in Cleveland. He had a brand new album and a single, I believe, they just came out. And if you don't know who DAVY is, check out this video.
All along it's been, and God
God's plan, yeah.
All right, everybody. If you don't know, now you know. Let's welcome DAVY to our program. Welcome, brother. Welcome. Let's slide the mic over just a little bit. Make sure we got you good. There we go. All right, then we're gonna relax and talk. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I feel real good now.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad you feel real good, man. I am very excited to have you on our program. I can honestly say that you are probably one of my first real artists
Really?
to come on our program.
Well, it's an honor to be here, man.
Yeah, man.
I love interviews, and I thank you for considering me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. So I'm gonna do you like we do all the people who come to our program. So we always check back. Are you from Cleveland? Tell us where you from, man.
From Cleveland, born and raised.
Okay.
Grew up in Cleveland Heights.
Oh,
and also in the Superior area. Parents had divorced, so my dad moved back down the way.
Okay.
Off Superior, and my mom stayed up the way.
Okay.
Cleveland Heights. So a very diverse childhood, man. That kind of contributes to the success or the social skills that I have to this day. It's not too many rooms I can't go in, be myself, and be comfortable and have success.
Okay. You play sports up
there? Yeah, basketball.
Oh, you're a basketball player.
Basketball player. Yeah, I went on to play Division II in the PZAC at Slippery Rock University. That's in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And then I played a little semi-pro with the ABA. And now I do basketball training. I've been training for about 12 years now.
So when you was playing basketball, what position you play?
Point guard.
Point guard?
Yeah.
How was your career in college?
My career was cool. It was interesting because sometimes coaching can play a big part in it. And there was a few political things going on back then. A lot of young kids now say they play favoritism. Right. It wasn't that. Right. It was a little deeper. And it's something that as a kid, I wasn't very aware of. But now that I'm older, I'm more knowledgeable and conscious of it. But basketball players, a lot of times, often the cross carriers for our culture, our race on these college campuses. When you look at sports on TV, looking at the team will have you thinking that college is actually, versus as many black people, but it's totally opposite, unless you go to a HBCU, you realize that most colleges are predominantly white.
And Slippery Rock had to be.
Yeah, Slippery Rock, was right outside of Pittsburgh and right outside of Grove City.
Okay.
It was a predominantly white school as well. And oftentimes the basketball team, they were focused on changing the perception, so they really wanted to change the image of the basketball team when I got there. And so the coach that came in while I was there, the first coach I had ended up getting fired. The second coach that came in, he was hell-bent on changing the image and the perception. So he was convinced that by wearing mock necks and sweater vests and khakis that we would be presentable and we would win games.
Right.
And, I remember playing against teams from Philly and, they come in with their sweatsuits.
Right.
They got their afros, unpicked or their cornrows. And my coach was ignorant enough to think that just because we were dressed presentably in his eyes that we were going to compete, and it's the furthest thing from the truth.
Y'all wasn't going to academic challenge.
Yeah. We wasn't going to the debate team.
The debate team, right.
It was interesting, man, but I took it all in stride, and it's helped. Now that I no longer play, I just apply all of those principles, that discipline, that work ethic. I just apply it to my music, and that's what plays a big part in a lot of success that I've had early on with that, man.
What was the biggest lesson you think you learned?
The biggest lesson was perseverance as well as adaptability. Basketball is a sport where you're constantly thinking, and your thinking is based off what the next man's thinking. So it's one big chess match. And I've learned that through life, as the saying goes, things happen and you can only control what you can control. And those that are able to adapt and make adjustments are typically the ones that do just fine. A lot of times I witness people who, are highly organized, highly efficient, and for the most part, planned and prepared for everything except for the unexpected. When the unexpected happens, they fall apart. You know,
Right,
they get
right.
in a frenzy.
Right.
And it's at that point where those basketball skills kick in of being poised, really feeling inside, right? So you have to be able to take whatever's coming at you, wear the mask, and adapt to it all in real time. And you know,
So can you accredit that to the coach who made you wear the sweater vest?
I can credit that to the whole journey in itself.
Okay.
You
That's
know,
a good answer.
I can credit that. I wouldn't dare give him that much credit, man. What he did was provide me with test after test.
Okay.
And it really made me dig deep.
Gotcha.
It really made me understand who I was as a person. It's through going against people like that or enduring people like that.
Right.
You become stronger.
You become stronger.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's the truth. And I don't even think that when we say that cliche is not what kills you physically,
Right.
it's mentally more so, right? Because the average thing doesn't kill you or take your life, but mentally it can force you to shut down to where you walking dead. You know?
That's true. That's
so if you're able to bypass that, you know, swerve that, swivel that, you are able to pretty much survive.
You know, because all my kids played sports a little bit, and all was the girls, and my son played football. And my thing, I used to tell them, because they used to, you know, you go through all kinds of different coaches going up, and they come back, oh, that coach didn't know what they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And I used to tell them at the end of the day, say, man, listen, you're going to learn something from every coach you have, even the bad ones. Even if the bad ones don't teach you no more than what you just said, perseverance to the point that every Wednesday I got to deal with this dude. And I got to get through this. And that is going to be enough, because he's going to probably teach you the same drill the other coach taught you. He's going to probably everything is pretty much the same, you know? So it's that. Did you always knew that you wanted to do music? Did you always have that? Now, I'll tell you some insight I got. I got some insight. They said that your mother is a great singer. Now, Michael did tell me that. He said his mother is an awesome singer. So we know that you had inherited a little bit. So we got that. So did you always have music during the basketball in high school? Was your music thing? What was you? How did music?
First off, I have to give credit to DNA. Can't beat genetics.
Right.
My mom as well as my father.
Father
were very musically inclined. Yep. So they both would sing. I remember my dad even having the old school equipment where
reel to reels.
And he had reels of him and my mom singing together, a duet. And so that was already embedded in me. So I will say I always had a love and a passion for music, never necessarily desired to be an artist. You know how some people that perform now and they sing, they're entertainers, you know, from a little kid they knew this is what I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be a singer. For me, it became basketball. Now, going back before sports, organized sports, we were a very religious family. So I grew up in church. And at one point, my mom remarried a pastor. So anybody that knows, you know, a PK, a preacher's kid, you're first to arrive at church, last to leave. I was in every choir that the church had, men's choir, the group choir, the children's choir.
Was you leading any songs in church?
Never
led a song in church?
I had no desire.
So nobody never even knew that they just knew he was another voice in the choir.
That's often what I try to do is just blend.
And I was going to say, you wanted that though, right?
I never craved the spotlight. I never said I want to be out in front and lead a song. I was very shy as a kid unless you knew me. If you knew me, I was hilarious.
But even when you were by yourself though, when you were at home, did you get in the mirror and be like, you know, I really want to go on Sunday. I really want to lead this Sunday song.
Well, you know what? Contrary to what most people would believe, like I said, my stepfather was a pastor. My mom was a first lady. And she eventually started preaching as well. So quite naturally, people try to project that profession on you.
Right.
Say, man, you're going to be a preacher too.
I grew up that way. I was a PK. So I get everything you said. Right.
Oddly enough, that was never my ambition. I never wanted to be a preacher's kid.
Right.
Although I love God greatly, I never was very fond of church and everything.
I can understand it.
I never wanted to sing gospel music or anything like so. I was, on hip hop.
I was gonna ask you where was you at?
Yeah, I was straight hip hop.
You was really hip hop. You was into hip hop.
Straight hip hop. Nas, Wu-Tang, Biggie, Jay-Z.
Okay.
Of course, the West Coast came in, the South. So I was that.
So you were in the choir because you had to be in the choir.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I got it.
I remember distinctively. They finally let me out because in the middle of rehearsal, I cried and begged. And the older people were thinking back on it now. They like, man, we want to come do these couple of songs and go home.
Right.
Like, and my mom's like, she's in charge kind of because she's the first lady. So she's like, no, nobody care if he cried.
Right.
Keep going. And, I cried. And they like, Bev, let the boy.
He don't want to sing.
Yeah. And we want to go home. So finally, she was like, all right, go. And from that day forth, I never went back to singing.
Wow.
I ran to basketball. And even though I played basketball, as you know, with sports, music goes hand in hand. You got your music while you're in the locker room. When you're warming up, they playing the music. So music is everywhere. So there was always that ability to be able to still have that relationship with music without actually vocalizing it, and again, everybody wanted to rap, nobody wanted to sing. Back then, the singers were like, had the S curl, the flat top, with the suits and the silk shirts.
I would say Keith Sweat.
Yeah.
And those dudes, man.
So we was wearing black boots.
Right.
And right around that time is when Jodeci made singing kind of cool.
Right.
So you had like the bad boys singing. And at that point, R&B was like just as cool as rap.
R&B was actually, rap was catching up to R&B because R&B was always there and doing well, and rap was trying to be the next thing. Find his place.
Right, so right. You usher from that true love song. Every song was like, oh baby, oh baby, and you realize today, hindsight, we missed that.
We missed that.
Right,
now.
we got further and further away from it. There's no love on the radio at all. Yeah, you had your Keith Sweat, your love, your ooh, baby, baby, baby. Then it went to the Jodeci with the black boots, and Belle Biv DeVoe, New Edition, things like that. And then came rap. And so all the young kids, like, man, rap was like the phenomenon, with the gold chain. So quite naturally, most people navigated to that, and as did I. Everybody wanted to be the cool guy.
That's correct.
Doing your fingers like this. And back then it was shows. I'm probably gonna date myself with this, but it was shows like V-Raps.
Oh yeah.
BT in the basement.
You can't date yourself with them shows. I can give you some shows. You'd be like, nah, that brother just dated his head.
The box, things like the box.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, but it was several things that it was several outlets, avenues that you had to, if you love music.
Basement.
Yeah, and I was always one of those kids. Like, we didn't have cable. My friends had cable, so I go over their house, and before we could get to playing, like, I was one of the most athletic. But I was like, hey man, cut on the video. I like cut on video. They were like, God, dog, man, you always. And I would get my high. I would literally be, frozen in time, just watching. And even then, I didn't say that I desired to be a star or entertainer. I just knew I loved it was giving me, And
so let's go then. Who would you say is your favorite hip hop artist?
Oh, Nas, hands down.
Nas, hip hop artist.
Yeah, Nas was always my guy. I think a lot of times you tend to bond with an artist that kind of reminds you of yourself. And to me, he was always a guy who wasn't very flashy, wasn't addicted to being in the spotlight. Very skillful, very talented, but didn't get caught up in the hype. And that's kind of who I've always been and who I am to this day, even with the success that I've experienced in the last 4 years.
So who's your favorite R&B artist? We get to the crooners and the singers.
Man. I don't know if I have a favorite. I could just say I'm inspired by a lot.
Okay, you know
So,
that's the better question.
yeah,
Who's some of the artists that
man,
inspire you?
So starting with older, like you got, of course, Prince, Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, Green, Stevie Wonder, Barry White, Whitney Houston. You kind of fast forward in today's era, you know, you have people like Miguel, Neo, Mary J, even, you know, Chris Brown. I rock with Chris Brown.
I think Chris
as
Brown's
well.
a great artist.
Yeah, he's dope. He's dope, man. And
I think he's very talented.
Yeah. And that's what I mean as far as like getting caught in the hype. Like sometimes that craving for the attention backfires because they love you 1 minute,
right,
and then they hate you, and that's what they forever trying to hang him on that cross of his mistakes.
Well, his mistakes, but he was just like what you started off, one of these young guys in the business who, like you say, don't get an opportunity to live out his mistakes behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Everybody make the same mistakes he's made. It's just that we all don't get to do it in a Maserati or Ferrari. We just don't probably have the same type of Rihanna with us, or you see what I mean? And not to say any of that stuff was good that he did, but everybody goes through stuff. It's just that it's always magnetized a lot higher when, like you say, you get into the spotlight, you know. So leading down that road, then, man, what was the moment that made you decide to say, you know what, man, I'm finally going to get off that, right? Okay, I'm walking up here, I'm grabbing this microphone, and I'm about to shock the world.
So, and I think I didn't answer your initial question. How did I even transfer out of basketball into music, right? So, this all comes together.
All right, here we go.
So, graduated. And my boy, actually, my high school boy, Brandon Dominic, he actually started writing raps. He started rapping. And I was always a good writer in class and school. He was like, man, why don't you help me write like the choruses or the hooks? So I'm like, all right, I could do that. And it was like God, that was his way of bringing me back into it, because once I got a taste of it, I fell all the way in. So I was writing for him, and then of course what I wrote, I had to sing.
No, you was writing raps, or was you writing songs?
Nope.
Oh, you said you was doing hooks.
Yeah.
So you're doing the chorus.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So that's what I was gonna say.
Right.
You can't just hand somebody a chorus and be like, here.
Right.
Like, you gotta be like, all right, how it goes. So
exactly.
So at that point I had to sing it, you know. He like, damn, man, you actually decent, man. Like you writing stuff for me, you might as well start, like, know where it's gonna go. And sure as shooting, you know, I kept writing for him, but I started writing my own, and it's like these songs would come in my head and these lyrics, and I would write them. And I didn't have music. I wasn't skilled enough to play the piano and start from scratch. So we just wrote to songs that were like other artists' songs in the industry, but they had instrumentals. You know, back then they would have CDs with all instrumentals on them. And you just write to them. And that's how I started.
Really?
And before you know it, I started writing choruses for some other artists. And then they was like, yo, I got a show on such and such and such. Why don't you perform with me? I'm like, heart drop. Oh, man. So,
all right. So tell me your very first one.
Man, it was on the west side. It was this place called The Fantasy or something.
Okay.
And scared to death, man. But one thing, you know, with sports kick in. No matter how scared you are, you wear the mask. You don't let it show. And you never let the moment be bigger than you, right? So I sang, performed, and if I could look back now, I probably was stood in one spot the whole time. Probably stood in one spot.
What was the song?
Man, I can't even tell you, man. It was something for my guy.
And you was doing the hooks on it.
I did the hook. I was, if I remember, man, if memory serves me correctly, I grabbed the mic, stood in one spot. I probably wasn't very entertaining at all.
How many people in the audience that day, you think?
Probably about 30.
Oh, man, small crowd.
Yeah,
too.
Small, man. Nobody was coming to see this show. But I was glad, like, you know, and that's why I only did them You know, I grew up on the east side, so most time, east side people don't go to the west side,
right.
and west side people
so
don't
you
come to
it was
the east.
no chance of you
Yeah, it was
running
a
into
safety.
nobody.
Yeah, it was a safety
okay.
zone,
right.
And so that's how I kind of kept going and going, and that went on, writing in private and keeping it a secret from 2005 all the way to 2017.
Really?
It was a secret. Nobody knew I was writing songs, singing.
And you still going to like little places doing your
every
stuff?
Now and then,
every now and then? Okay.
every now and then. But it wasn't until a buddy of mine moved to Dubai and he met a woman over there, Ethiopian woman, my buddy Heath, who was actually my assistant coach the first year at Slippery Rock. But he got fired with the staff that initially got fired.
Okay.
And, you know, we became like brothers. And as he moved to Dubai and he met this woman, you know, he would call or email and just kind of give play-by-play on how it was going and how everything was happening and unfolding with him and this woman. And I ended up turning it into a song.
Really?
And so when he invited me over for the wedding, I wrote the song as a wedding gift. And it was recorded. So my plan going over there was to just sneak it to the DJ, because remember at this point I was not a performer.
Right.
I was a private, secretive artist.
Right.
And my conscience, as I'm over there, you know, we were doing running around for the wedding, getting ready, and my conscience just wouldn't leave me alone. Like, it was like, you gotta do it. It was like, you gotta do it. Like, no, I'll just send it to the DJ and
no.
I'll watch in the cut.
Watch
see how everybody react. Yeah, then I'll know.
No.
And
I'll see it first.
Yeah, man. Fear actually pushed me off the ledge, because I was so afraid that they were going to hate it when the DJ played it, that the dance floor would clear out. His wife would start crying and be like,
really?
What song is this? Like,
you really
DJ,
thought it was going to be
this
that
how
bad?
This is how it all played in my head.
Wow. Like
terrible. She looked at the DJ and like, who told you to play this song?
Right.
Everybody's clearing out, and then the DJ was gonna point at me and be like, that dude right there, and then my boy was gonna be like, yo, how could you do this at my wedding? All that played out in my head, like all of that, literally.
Now that is a chance. Now.
No exaggeration.
It's a strong,
it's
a
strong,
wild possibility,
small chance,
but it is a possibility.
Because at the end of the day, a trained DJ is going to gauge by how well people are dancing and how full the dance floor is. If it's not popping, he's just going to switch to the next record.
And it's their day.
Yeah.
So you don't know what kind of bag, you know, they may not want to have that. You know, it could be all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you took a big chance.
So with that fear, we all sitting in his living room, and I said, you know what, man, I got to tell you something. He's like, what's up? I was like, man, I got a wedding gift for you. He's like, all right, cool. Like, no, I said, it's musical. He's like, music? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you do music? He's like, I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I've known you. We met in 2017. He's like, I've known you 16 years.
Right.
And you telling me you do music? So I'm like, yeah. I said, nobody knows, though. Well, quite naturally, with my demographic at that point, he's like, what you do, rap? You know, everybody think everybody rap. So I'm like, no, I actually sing. So they're like, sing? I said, yeah, man. I said, I wrote you a song based on, you know, everything you told me calling back home. I said, that was going to be my wedding gift. I said, however, I just rather have your blessing before handing it to the DJ to play at the reception. He was like, you know what? I'm emotional. I don't really have time to be crying, 'cause I still got things to execute. So he's like, I trust you. I was like, nah, I really would prefer you to listen first. I said, you're very critical. I said, I'd rather just have your blessing first and foremost. So he didn't want to listen. His son listened first with the headphones. And the son's like, I can't believe this is you. I've known you my whole life. I've known his son since his son was like 6. So then his brother-in-law listens. And it's very unique and interesting how well God puts a play together. His son is young. So in this room, the different dynamics and diversity we have. My boy is about 10 years older than me. His son, when I was in college, his son was like 8. Then he has his brother, his soon-to-be brother-in-law, who's Ethiopian. So you have all this variety of ears and taste in music in the room. And everybody was like, man, this is crazy. This is good. This is amazingly good. I can't believe it's you. So finally he like, all right, I'll listen, but I'm going in another room. So he takes the headphones, goes out, goes into a room, closes the door, comes back out, snatches the headphones off. He's like, yeah, you messed up. I like, yeah, I know, man. That's why I wanted you to hear it first. Like, I didn't want to. He's like, no. You messed up by letting me hear it first. I was like, what you mean? He's like, there's no way, absolutely no way. And I cut him off. Like, I know, man, no way I'll perform. I'll play it to the DJ. I know it's your wedding. He's like, no. He's like, just shut up and listen. You know, when you're afraid bad news is coming, you keep trying to cut it off.
Trying to give your own bad
Yeah.
news.
So he like, no, man, just chill and listen. He said, there's no way you come all the way here with this song and not perform it. And my chest, my Adam's apple dropped to the floor. I like, what do you mean? He like, this is an amazing song. He like, you gotta perform it. He's like, man, this is what better opportunity, man. I mean, it's Dubai. You got people from all over. And he was like, man, this is going to be crazy. Like, I visualized it all while I was listening to it. Like, you got to perform it. And I was like, dang, like, I'm not ready for this. I didn't have a stage name. I didn't have social media. This is 2017. None of that stuff. So putting me on the biggest stage I ever been in on my life, international stage at that. That's my debut, to say the least.
Wait. So I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
His wedding is where you're going to sing.
His wedding.
That's not the Dubai concert. That's something different.
So this is my first time in Dubai. This is how the concert even
So you done
came
been
to
to Dubai twice?
3 times.
3 times?
2 times as a performer.
Well, okay. No, as long as we get, because I want to say, wait a minute, your very first time was that. Okay. All right, keep going there.
But that's again how that's just how amazing God is, because of that wedding.
Yeah, go
my
ahead.
first time out the gate, I'm instantly international artist, performer. I just didn't know it yet, right? So I get on the plane, I leave that night of the wedding.
So you rocked the wedding.
Rock the wedding. We actually made it. That was my very first video. We turned the wedding footage into a video.
Wow.
The wedding performance into a professional video.
So so I just want to get some clarity on this. So this is the very first time anybody ever heard you sing publicly
outside of those small hole in the walls on the west side.
And at this time, you probably done perfected your craft now, because it's been a minute.
Yeah, 05 to 2017.
And you actually wrote this song, so you really feel it.
12 years.
Your mom and nobody still never heard you sing.
Nobody knew.
When was the time when they heard you sing?
I came home. First off, the plane ride home was like this big moment, right? You're considered, when you're a creator or innovator, you're considered pretty much crazy until somebody gets it. You need,
you're right.
You need somebody to be like, man, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
like, that's dope.
I totally get that.
Right. So again, this is 05, 2017. So that's 12 years of doing something in private, secret, being crazy enough to believe that something's going to happen. Like, you easily be like, dude, what are you writing songs for? You ain't performing. You ain't trying to perform. There's this new thing called Instagram, Facebook, but you ain't on none of it. Like, what are you? Right. So it was at that moment after I performed, man, a few people came up to me, and I forgot a very important part. Before I agreed to sing, he said, mark my words. Because I tried to say, no, I ain't prepared for that. I just came to slide it. He said, mark my words. And it was like clouds stopped moving. The sun froze. Time stood still. The TV paused. He's like, mark my words. You're going to miss your moment if you don't perform this song. And that was the realest statement that I've ever heard to this day, because everything today is a ripple effect of me performing at that wedding.
Wow.
So I got on the plane crying because I finally got that confirmation. Like, God finally showed up. Like, I told you, now it's time. Push me off the ledge. So it's like, now it's like, all right, I got to start a social media. I got to come up with a stage name. I got all these things that I got to do. Like, whether you like it or not, you in it now. You're it. You're a musical artist. Like, this is what that 12 years of beating on your craft was for. So I came home. Me and him were plotting and planning. He like, I can't believe that played out like that. It's crazy. I didn't send you that video. I had to send you that one. And we turned into a video. So I had already kept it a secret for 12 years. So I kept it for another month. Video came. I said, I got a secret that I want to share with everybody, my family, my friends. I showed them the video. Everybody went crazy. My mom and them start crying. Because, you know, being in music, quite naturally, whatever we do,
right,
we expect our children to follow our steps. And the last thing she heard about me doing music is when I cried to get out of choir rehearsal. So to come back 20-something years later, and I got this professional video, he's like crying, speechless. And from there, it was just blindly running. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. My faith, my determination, my perseverance, all those things from basketball just helped me find a way, man.
So I try to make sure when I bring people on that we kind of share our experience and give up some stuff about how we got there. So we're going to break this journey down a little bit. So you, like most people, just like you say, man, you got to come back home. I don't even have a stage name. I don't have no social media, because even if I do decide to do one, I don't do social media. So now I got to get through all of that. And
I was
and got all these folks who want to help me now a little bit, and who I can trust and who I can't trust. I mean, because music business and all of that is artist stuff, period, is so many crazy folks and so many pitfalls that you can fall in along the way. So let's start off with the first thing, your stage name, Mr. Freedom Paper.
Mr. Freedom Paper. So it started off as DAVY. So it's funny, like, as you see my hats now, they say Freedom Papers. That's my brand, my record company, all things Freedom Papers, right? So my name was DAVY, but everything now being streaming and things like that, when you type in Dave, because it was DAVE, or it is still DAVE with the Macron over the E. So when you go back to elementary education, your vowels, you got your long vowels, short vowels. So the long vowel has the line over it, which is the Macron, to make the Dave go Davey, but they don't let me put that line over it. So
yeah, I know. I was trying to type your name in today. I had to call somebody and be like, "Man, where is that?" It was like, it's in the symbols.
Yeah, you got to press it and hold E, then it'll bring up all the E's you can use. So I just had to type Dave. So I mean, you go to the bank, you go to the gym, you go anywhere and say Dave, and a database come up. Like, you know, that's one of America's most common names.
Exactly. My middle name is David.
Okay, yeah. See? So when it came to music, me being at the bottom of the totem pole and having the name Dave, as an artist came up before me. So it was hard for people to find my music once I finally started releasing it. And you know, my ongoing moniker from the very beginning was always Freedom Papers. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go with that. Like,
so what's
Mr. Freedom Papers?
What's the significance behind Freedom Papers?
So for Freedom Papers, I have the professional sales pitch of it. Also have how it started and what it represented for me. And just like our ancestors, you know, our Freedom Papers represented that certificate that you are now free. You are no longer considered a slave or somebody else's property. And for me, Freedom Papers represented no longer doing things I didn't want to do just to get through life.
You know what? That's exactly when I read it. I said, I bet you that's what he's using it for.
Yeah.
Because when I saw it, I was like, he said he's totally free.
Yeah.
When I saw his Mr. Freedom Paper, I said, oh, he's saying he's totally free.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I got.
Yeah. So That's exactly what it meant. And primarily it meant, for me, I wanted to live my life and be financially set by doing what I love versus doing something I had to do to pay the bills and to eat each day and to keep the heat on. And why can't my gift from God and or my dream and or my purpose provide and make a way for me? For me, that was my freedom. And I began to just speak it, manifest it. And then it turned into a thing to where we toasted. My friends, we would have drinks and my toast every time. Freedom
papers. Right.
And at that point, now that you're saying it, now other people can see it. Then it becomes a clothing. Then it becomes music. Then it becomes everything that you represent. And when it became an official thing, I'm like, okay, I got to put some parameters on this thing and make it, legit. And then it became Freedom Papers is a brand that represents the essence of a people that passionately wake up every day fighting for their freedom through their dreams, through their gifts, and through their goals. And at one point, I really wanted freedom for everybody. And, talking to people, some of my elders, my OGs, they was like,
no, freedom ain't for everybody.
Freedom ain't for everybody,
freedom
bro.
Ain't for, because you need,
because everybody ain't willing to go through what it takes.
And also you need everybody else to help you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Everybody can't be free.
Yeah.
There gotta be people who are going to work the line.
Yeah. Everybody can't be and everybody won't be.
Yeah, it's gotta be people to work the line.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't be nothing without the workers.
And see, for me, my thing was like, okay, you got the workers, you got but even each of those workers, God put something in them
to be free.
Because
honestly, you got people who honestly like doing their part.
You're right.
On the job and feel that I'm doing my contribution and
they
for
satisfied.
That I'm satisfied. All I want to do is make sure when my 30 years or so is over, that you treat me the same way by retiring me and I can go home and live a retired life to say, oh, I contribute in life by working the assembly line or whatever. It's all of that. Just and I get it. I totally get what you're saying with that. And that's sweet. And you say you turned that into a clothing line, record label,
clothing line, record company. So all my music is put out under Freedom Papers Music.
That's sweet.
Clothing started by my buddy, Stephen Anthony, who's the creator of Rare and Royalty. And I started as a brand ambassador for him. I felt he was very creative, very dope. And I was like, hey, man, I'm a musical artist. I want to use my platform to help push your stuff. Like, man, I appreciate it. And he's like, I like your style. Like, I like your style. And he's like, man, let's do it. And we did it. And he was like, man, I'm watching you. And he's like, man, this Freedom Papers thing, man, I think you really got something. It's like, man, I don't typically do this. In fact, I've never done it. So I can't even say typically, I've never done it. He's like, but I want to endorse you and Freedom Paper. He's like, man, you need to create your own clothing, Freedom Paper. He's like, because that's going to resonate with people, man. And
it represents the entrepreneur. I mean, you explain every element of what I've been doing for 25 years plus as it relates to business. And in the sense of Freedom Papers, I even tell my kids in them that in the fact that even with the good and the bad of being an entrepreneur, it's the best thing I felt that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's nothing like working for yourself.
Yeah.
It's nothing like having that experience of being your own boss and calling your own shots and being able to make a living at doing that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who out here who say they calling their own shots and doing anything, but they're not actually doing it. And so, no, Freedom Papers represent that. And I think you're on to something big with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really hot. So let's talk about your music now, because we get ready to get a little music going here. What was your first? You had how many singles you got out now?
So the first song was a song in Dubai.
Oh shit, we got to go back to Dubai. So with that, now you said that those way, and we're gonna fix this up nice, but I got to go back to the Dubai because, like you say, the Dubai is what made everything happen. Yeah, right. And there was some footage I saw where you actually went back to Dubai and performed. Now, how did that come about? Now, was that your very first big performance?
Yeah, that was the biggest performance of my life, 2021.
Okay.
So that happened because of the wedding. So wedding we did in 2017. So just get that in your head. 4 years later, this big festival called the All Africa Festival. And because when that wedding happened, it's his wedding. So it's, hey, we got married, like everybody does, share their wedding experience. But the dope thing that we did that I didn't even realize is we created a timeless storyline around his wedding by turning it into a music video. So when people talk about their weddings, you see the pictures.
Right.
And if you watch the priest and the thing, like you had that moment, but I mean, it's pretty boring for the most part. Who actually turns their wedding into a music video?
Okay.
To where years and years go by and you don't mind saying, hey, turn on YouTube.
Right.
Let's watch when we got married. It's literally, it ended up being probably the best gift of everybody. You know what I mean? So because of that, it circulated worldwide, you know, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, the Bahamas, the Philippines, to all these places, the States. And in Dubai, they knew me. Oh, that's the dude that sung at your wedding. That's So with this festival coming, it's like, okay, we got the big time stars and we got the locals. Well, they consider me to be a local. So like let's give him a chance, you know. Let's what's he doing now since your wedding? Like, oh, he's doing this, he got that. All right, we'll roll the dice on him. Let's give him a chance. If he wants to bet on himself, if he can get over here, we'll carve out a slot for him. So I was like, bet. So I got myself over there, and biggest stage I ever been a part of.
How many people?
6,000.
6,000. Okay.
Yeah, I went from 30 people on the west side to 6,000
in Dubai.
In Dubai.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like
Arab
descent, African descent, Filipino descent, like all these different European descent, British, Jamaican, all these different things, African.
So did you perform by yourself, or I saw the video, you was with some people?
So that was this past year. So 2001, I went by myself and built a bridge.
Okay.
I did so well that I told them, hey man, I got a group of people that I perform with. We have a group called a crew, artists creatively recognizing everyone's worth.
I like that name. That was good.
They're poets along with some models and stuff. But I was like, we actually do some dope stuff together. So 2022, I went back as a solo artist, but I also brought those that could make it from my group, and we wrote something specifically for that.
What was the name of that song?
Coming Home.
Coming Home.
Yeah, right. And that was a letter from the diaspora, which is Africans that have migrated away from Africa and that are all over the world. And we just said, we coming home.
That had a nice groove to
bring us all back. Yeah. So
I can imagine that played well over in Dubai.
Oh yeah, it went real well. And I actually got big plans for that, because now, I don't know if you're aware, but Africa's actually reaching out to a lot of African Americans, trying to get them to come back and buy land and reconnect with the culture and our heritage. And I believe Coming Home can and possibly will be the soundtrack to that. You know, imagine listening to that, taking your trip over to Africa, taking to Ghana. Like it has such a spiritual connection that I think people will really relate.
Well, when I heard it, I got that off of it. It gave me that, I don't want to say it that way, but almost like Disney effect. Like, you know, like this was a really big song. Yeah. And when I heard it, then I saw the other people singing with you. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. They did really well there.
Yeah.
So after that, you got a few more. So how many solo songs you guys got out total now, you say?
So we haven't put anything out as a group, you know. So me individually, I got the song I did over there initially in 2017. That's Meant for Me. So Shooting Star was my first song after coming home and letting the world know I do music.
Okay.
And Shooting Star Shooting Star represented whoever, but specifically me, a person that was fighting every day inside the struggle, trying to be as great as they saw themselves in their head. And it was an inspirational song, and it was putting the world on notice. Look out, here comes a shooting star. Out, discover who exactly I am. And it's like that moment where a person, you know, speaks life into themselves. You know, they in the midst of the battle, and they just at a point where they just tired of being down. And it's like, you know what? I see myself here. Like, God, I know what you put inside of me. Look out. I'm telling you now, look out. Here comes a shooting star. And that was that. That song is such a sentimental attachment to that. And when you hear the words and you actually hear the song, you'll see where it comes from. But that video I shot, I invited all Black entrepreneurs out. And I told them, no labels, no Gucci, no Louis Vuitton. The only thing you could wear is we getting these shirts, and it's gonna be your company on it. And then my name will be on the side. So when people look at this video, they won't be discouraged by saying, well, I ain't got it going on. I can't have a Gucci belt.
Right.
Or I ain't got that type of car.
Right.
The only reason you ain't in this video is because you haven't taken that first step of becoming or of doing what God put in you. And it was meant to inspire anybody that saw it. And that was at a point, that was 2018. That was at a point where social media they were starting to associate it with depression,
right,
suicide, from people feeling like they can't compete, you know, with the status quo. And I didn't want to represent that. So that's why I made that video the way I did. And it ended up turning into a thing where everybody was like, man, I would have loved to be in that. I got a business out. And then one person like, man, I saw it and I had been procrastinating. And after I saw that video and I realized what was going on, that was the last time I hesitated. I went out and started 4 businesses.
Wow.
And that's my homeboy, Tim Starks. And he got about 4 businesses now. So, you know, exclusion is, like Nas said, exclusion is a hell of a drug. Like, people hate to not be included.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And sometimes that's a good motivational method, man.
Well, let's talk about motivation a little bit. And while I got you here, how hard is it to break in the music industry coming from Cleveland?
It's exceptionally hard, man. Before I really kind of officially let the world know, you know, of course they knew in Dubai, and then the small group of people that I shared my video with knew. But as far as the music scene, the veterans, the regulars on the Cleveland music scene, they didn't know who I was, right? So because I was a ghost, I got to watch and study everything and everybody. And one thing that a lot of the artists had in common is, man, Cleveland don't support. Cleveland don't support. Cleveland don't support. So I start looking deeper into it, you know, and why, and if it was even true. And, you know, and then I remember those small little shows I did on the West Side where, you know, it's 30 people, you know, and it's hard to crack the code. It is.
When Bone Thugs and Harmony came out.
Yeah.
It was hip hop, but it was a different type.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So what happens here also is you don't see a lot of people with connections hanging around here.
That's true.
So when you think of musical talent and things like that, places like New York, LA, now Atlanta, Houston, Detroit with Motown, you have people coming in and out of there can make one phone call, and next thing you know, you in a room with the right people. It's just not as common, right? So you have a lot of people walking by faith and hoping that they can somehow be discovered, you know, and it's a long, brutal journey, you know, especially when just getting the people in your city to say, if somebody from out of town came, like, all right, point me in the right direction, who's the best or hottest? If you ask 10 people, you might get 10 different answers.
That's correct. That's correct.
You know, it really isn't a household name that everybody be like, oh, you gotta get him, or you gotta get her, or you got, you know. And I looked and I just kind of explored why is that, or what can be done to kind of defeat that, man. And most people tell you gotta get out of Cleveland. You gotta leave Cleveland. You want any success, you gotta leave Cleveland. And I've kind of prided myself on cracking the code, you know, because I do believe that if you can make it here, if you can get these tough people to root and cheer for you, if you can get Cleveland people to rock with you and say, hey man, you need to check this person out. You have accomplished something that should be sold, packaged and sold.
Up sold, right?
Because it is a hard crowd. I've performed here and looked out at the crowd, and there have been people that are looking dead at me, and they look like they're at a funeral, right? No motion, no emotion, no liveliness. And I'm like, dang, like they not really feeling it. And then you come off stage, and that same dude will be like, hey man, you killed it up there, man. You like, I was looking at you the whole time, man. Like you didn't budge, like you didn't nod your head. You do nothing. And it's like Cleveland has like this cool reserve type of I'm checking you out type of thing. And it can be mistaken for I don't like you, or I think you're terrible. And if you walk off stage and you get at least 3 people to say, hey man, that was nice, that was amazing, like, you know you did your thing. And then, you know, once you become the unanimous decision, get that energy that you desire where they like, oh yeah, I mess with him, this is my dude. And they cheer for you like they do industry artists.
What's you got next going, man? You got anything in the hopper going out?
So me and Lateef, we actually just completed the Dream Out Loud concert. That was January 15th. And that was a pre-album concert. By pre-album, I mean, I had that concert to kind of give everybody a preview of the album. March 18th, I'll be performing at the Smoking Divas Lounge in East Cleveland.
Really?
Yeah, they have a thing called Free Smoke Saturdays.
Now, what is that?
So it's a cigar shop bar initially, but on Saturdays, my man Reg Clemens and Acquired Taste Media, they have what they call Free Smoke Saturdays. And that's where a few artists will come up and perform. And then every now and then they'll have a headliner. So I'll be headlining March 18th, but you know, me being who I am, I really want to take it to a different level. So I'm going to turn it into it's going to be called Who DAVY. And Who DAVY is all about how you say it, right? So the average person would say, you mean who is Davy? So if you were to go up to somebody, hey, like, you ever heard of Mr. Freedom Paper? And they be like, who, Davy? Like, yeah, I'm hip to him. Right? That's what you need people to say. You need people like, who, Davy? Hip to Davy? Like, you. So that's what I plan on titling it, Who Davy. And it's going to be just a continuation of the concert for everybody to then make it out and just let the people know that weren't there, like, hey man, this is the direction we going. This is what's going on. And plus I'm a cigar smoker myself.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I like cigar. I never smoked weed or cigarettes, Black and Milds, nothing of that nature. But cigar and a nice whiskey, cognac, tequila.
Like
that? That's my thing.
I like a nice bourbon myself.
Yeah.
So you was talking about your singles that are coming out, a new one. I wanted to play another clip of one of your new singles that are coming out here. I'm gonna put it on for the That was a nice video. I cut the video short because it was a long video.
Yeah.
So tell me, where did y'all film that here?
Yep, we filmed that here. That was actually within the Dream Out Loud concert, which we held at Platform 13.
Okay.
Shout out to Mike Bell and them. That was January 15th, MLK weekend.
Okay. Oh, that's recent.
Recent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the first single, the top of the year.
And that video was featuring who?
My brother, Woj Simpson. Not my brother by blood, but my brother through life.
And you say he's local too?
Yeah, he's from Cleveland as well. He's a Cleveland artist, man. He's a part of my crew family as well.
Okay.
And the horns in the back, that's the abstract horns, they're called as a group.
Okay.
And they kind of do their own thing. They're pretty dynamic in their own right. And that was just an example of me entertaining the crowd on an industry level. So
what's the name of that single so everybody knows?
So that single is called Dream. And
do that mean something? What was the purpose of that?
Dream.
What was your inspiration behind that?
Dream is inspired by the old Wu-Tang song Cream. Cash rules everything around me. Yeah. Cream. So mine was Dream. Dreams rule everything around me. Dreams. And that song is actually based on a true story. You know, it was narrating a time in my life where I was with a young lady and she just, you know, rather than get behind me and push towards the dream, she was standing in front of me and trying to push me away from it. And
was that singing or it was another thing you was trying to do?
What's that?
That she was holding you back from?
Yeah, singing. It was
really?
it was the music career in itself. Yeah. And it's one thing, you know, when people get used to you being one person, this is how people kind of grow apart. People get used to you being one way. They get comfortable with you being that one way. And sometimes people like myself, you're a late bloomer, you know, you don't find your stride until it comes. And at that point, when you find it, you're in your most vulnerable state because, you know, it's new. You may even be considered crazy, especially when you're talking about going for a dream. Like people can kind of respect if it's like a job, like, hey, I'm switching jobs. I'm gonna try something.
Entertainment. If you say I'm gonna be an actor, I'm gonna be a singer, I'm gonna be even if you say you're gonna be an athlete, they'll be like, well, okay, all right. But when you say I'm gonna be an actor, I'm gonna be a singer, you'd be like, okay, dreams aren't tangible, right? But jobs, occupations are. So when you tell a person I'm gonna start this or I'm gonna do that, they kind of be like, okay, they can taste it, see it, something that they've experienced before. But when you talk about something that's so hard to find success in, like becoming an entertainer or an actor, like you said, it's hard for a mate to kind of rock with you, you know, because they like, what you about to do? What, you know how old are you? Right? And then comes the other part where you actually prove them wrong and you start to
reap success, now it turns into fear. Now you're afraid that you may lose the person or
Correct.
you may become second to the dream,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So it becomes this force, this adversary force that you're fighting against, and it becomes, and your Achilles heel to you moving forward, and you have to eliminate people like that,
Or it
or
inspires
else
you to write a song.
or it inspires you, yeah, or you take that and use it as coal for the engine, yeah. Exactly.
So distribution, how does that work?
So, man, the game has changed from how it used to be. Some see it as an advantage, some see it as a disadvantage. But, now with this whole social media thing, YouTube, record companies, they kind of only picking people that's already ready made. Very rare that they take somebody and mold them like they used to. Like you hear about
right.
Clive Davis and stuff,
right.
seeing a star in somebody, mold them. Like now they like, how many followers you already got?
Wow.
How many people you already got? How many? And that's how they go. So now it enabled these distribution companies to come out to where you can pay a yearly subscription and you can put out as much music as you want to. You don't have to hear about the record company shelved my project. They got my album on hold. Like you have more capability as an independent artist.
Okay.
And it's a slower process. It's a harder process, but survival of the fittest, I think with anything, and this comes from basketball, like those that are willing to endure and put the work in and sometimes work without pay, a lot of times you plant seeds, water them and give them sun. It could be years before you actually see something start to blossom.
So it is like you say, everything, you have to plant those seeds, man.
That's how I started off with basketball training. So like I started in about 2010, and thank you to my boy Swift, Brian Swift from Warrensville High School.
Okay.
He was training before me and had social media, all those things. But I didn't get social media until 2017. So he's training, and we would like split the gym.
Okay.
So he'll be on his side, have like 10 kids, and I'd be counting his money. I'd be like, dang, 10 kids, that's such and such per head, right? Then on my end, I have like 1 kid, 2 kids. And people that's the difference between, chasing a bag, just chasing a purpose or a dream. Chasing a bag, I'll instantly want what he has, right? Even though I haven't even put that much time in.
Exactly.
I haven't even planted that many seeds, right? But a person that chases purpose, that chases destiny or a dream, you don't mind seeing it through. There's a lot of times you're going to come out and water that ground. Ain't nothing to show for it, right?
Yep.
And it took me about 5 to 7 years till my side looked like his. And then after that, I was able to survive still without social media, but off word of mouth.
Right.
And that's just kind of how life goes.
It goes.
It's no
right.
microwave for long-term success. You had to put the time and the work in.
Well, and that's the difference in my way of doing business versus the new way of doing business, which is the reason why, hence the podcast even came along, was that I lived 25 years off of word of mouth business. Everybody just knew, oh, you're doing a campaign, you got to call Ken. Or I was in the political game enough that's what I was doing. Even with some of the governmental stuff, public relations stuff, it was all word of mouth. This year actually is the first year that I actually decided, you know what, I'm going to go digital. This year, I'm going to actually spend some resources and actually promoting myself outside of my circle of people who I depend on. Now, think about how scary that is in that whole thing, that you depend on just a small group of people so many years who constantly fed you the work that you got, that if they decided not to give you work, there was years you didn't get work. If you decided to fall out with them, which it was years I fell out with them, I didn't get work and I had to, adjust and do things. So it was like, now with digital, everything digital and everything, now you should be looking at expanding your territory and doing more. Yeah. And that's hence the podcast. It was like, you know what, everybody, you're doing things. So it's a chance to maybe do something outside of the norm that you normally don't do. So that's what got me to what I'm doing today.
Growth.
Yeah, we all have to go through it. Plant the seeds are already planted. Like you said, it's been there for years. Now it's time to say, okay, I can do more than what I've been doing and looking to do something different. So,
absolutely.
Hey, man, I really want to appreciate you for coming on our show, man.
I do too, man. I could talk. We can
talk
go
all the time, but
night,
I'm going to bring you back because I want to keep following you, man. We want to watch what you're doing. I want to make sure that we promote everything that you got going. Also with your stuff that you got going, I'm definitely going to come there on the 18th. Right?
Okay.
And me and my wife, we're going to come check you out and see what you got going and
take
things
a toast.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely do that. And hear anything you got going, Lateef. I like cigars and I like bourbon. So I'll definitely be there to do that. But what we do like in most of our shows, man, I'm going to give you this camera.
Okay.
Because I'm going to give you an opportunity to get a chance to talk to the people, how they can reach you on that thing you don't like to be on social media. I know you got one now.
Absolutely.
and tell everybody how they can reach you and how they can reach anything you want to plug. Make sure you put it on there. I'm going to put in the descriptions all of the information that he got. So you'll be able to go in our description and be able to get all the links to everything that DAVỳ got going and all the places he's going to be so that you can get it and how you can get information about how his new single he got out. We will have information on how you can get that as well. Okay.